The basement door slammed so hard the light shook and then the deadbolt clicked. That sound, that neat little click, felt louder than every fight we had ever had with him put together. I grabbed the knob and yanked, but it didn't move at all. "Jason," I shouted, "open this damn door right now." My son's voice floated down, calm like this was normal. "Mom, just relax, okay? We just need you and Dad to stay down there for a while." "For a while?" I yelled back. "You just locked your parents in the basement?" Upstairs, his wife Ruby laughed her fake little laugh. "We'll be back later," she called. "Try to rest." A door shut, a car started, and the sound faded down the street. Then it was just me, my husband, and the hum of the old bulb. I kept pulling on the knob until my shoulder burned. "He really did it," I said. "Our own son really did this to us." "Linda," my husband Frank said, "you're gonna rip your arm off." "Let it go? Don't tell me to let it go," I snapped. "You heard them last week, Ruby whining about money, talking like we owe her our whole lives." Frank's jaw tightened. "I heard. She wants the house," I said. "She wants our savings, and now they lock us down here so we can't mess things up while they do whatever they want upstairs." I looked around the basement. Low ceiling, gray block walls, shelves full of dusty boxes and old paint. This was where we kept junk, not where we belonged. "What if one of us falls?" I asked. "What if we get sick? They just leave us down here like luggage?" Frank stood up, his bad knee popping, and walked past me to the far wall, the one half hidden behind his workbench. "What are you doing?" I asked. He rested his palm on the wall, fingers tracing the paint. "They don't know what's behind this wall," he said quietly. I stared. "Behind the wall is dirt, Frank." "That's it, not here." He slid his hand along the blocks until he stopped at a slightly different patch of paint, a spot I had never really noticed. "Help me move the table." We shoved the workbench away from the wall. Tools rattled, a tape measure fell and slapped the floor. Frank leaned in and tapped one of the bricks with his knuckle. It sounded hollow. "Frank," I said slowly, "what did you do?" He pressed his thumb against the edge of that brick and pushed. It shifted a little, tiny bits of mortar fell on his shoe. He worked his fingers around it and pulled it out like a loose tooth. Behind it was a dark square opening. Cold air slipped through and brushed my face. My skin prickled. "How long has that been there?" "About 35 years, he said. "Since before Jason was born." He slid his arm inside the hole, feeling around like he knew exactly what should be there. His fingers closed on something. His shoulder strained as he pulled it out. It was a small metal box, dull and dusty, heavy enough that he had to use both hands. He set it on a crate with a low, solid thud. "Frank," I whispered, "what is that?" He wiped a clean spot on the lid with his sleeve, eyes never leaving it. "This," he said, voice low and hard, "is the reason our sweet boy and his greedy little wife are not going to win." The box sat there between us in the dim light, like it had been waiting 35 years for this exact day. Whatever was inside, that thing was not just some old keepsake. It was the first piece of the revenge that was going to make Jason and Ruby wish they had never touched that basement door. Frank didn't open the box right away. He just rested his hands on it like he was trying to decide if this was really the moment. "Are you gonna stare at it or actually open it?" I asked. My voice came out sharper than I meant, but I was still hearing that deadbolt in my head. He gave me a small smile. "Same bossy mouth you had at 20. "And you loved it," I said. "Now stop stalling." He popped the latches. They were stiff, but they still worked like they'd been waiting. When he lifted the lid, dust puffed into the air. I coughed and waved it away. Inside, there were neat stacks of envelopes, rubber bands dried and cracked, a small black notebook, a flash drive in a tiny plastic bag. And under all of that, something wrapped in old cloth. "This looks like trouble," I muttered. "This," he said, tapping the notebook, "is my insurance." He opened it. The pages were full of small, tight writing and taped slips of paper. Bank names, account numbers, dates, a little note next to each one in his neat handwriting. "You lied to me," I said, staring. "All those years you said we were just getting by." "We were getting by," he said. "But I was also planning ahead. For you, for if something ever went bad. My uncle taught me after he lost everything to his own kids. He said, always keep one thing nobody knows about, Frankie." I blinked. "So you've had this secret money for 35 years? Not just money." He pulled one of the envelopes out and handed it to me. Inside were copies of papers, fresh-looking even though they were old, deeds, titles, signatures. My name next to his on everything, clear lines that said if something happened, it all flowed to me and nowhere else. I flipped through. "This isn't what the lawyer has on file," I said. "Exactly," he answered. "The lawyer has the nice version. The one we showed Jason so he'd calm down. This is the real version, the one that actually counts because it has all the right witnesses and dates." He tapped the corner. "Remember that fishing trip I took with Mark and Jerry?" "That wasn't just fishing." I stared at him, then started to laugh a little wild. "So when Jason thinks he's getting the whole pie, he's not even getting the plate," Frank said. I looked at the flash drive. "And that," he picked it up between two fingers, "that is our little bonus. Cameras weren't just for stores, you know." His face went cold. "You think I didn't notice him borrowing money from our accounts without asking? Using our card at bars and fancy places, then deleting the texts where we argued?" My stomach flipped. "You saved that?" "I saved everything," he said. Every time he screamed at you on the phone and thought I wasn't listening. Every time Ruby rolled her eyes and called you crazy under her breath. Every little old people don't understand moment. I thought about Jason's face lately, the tight jaw, the way he looked through us like we were in his way. The last dinner when Ruby said, "It's just not safe for you two to manage all this paperwork anymore," while she slid the folder closer to her side of the table, I had felt something crack then. But I still signed some of those forms, trusting Frank to double-check, trusting my own son not to shove a knife in our backs. "How bad is it, Frank?" I asked quietly. "What did they do?" He pulled another envelope. Inside were bank printouts, big withdrawals, transfers to an account with Jason's name on it. My chest hurt as I flipped through the pages. "Nice little theft trail," Frank said. "Small bites so we wouldn't notice, but I noticed." "I just played dumb." You knew?" My voice shook. "And you didn't tell me?" He took my hands. I was waiting to see how far he'd go, and now we know. He locked his own parents in a basement. "That's where we are." I pulled my hands back and stared at the door. My heart felt like it had glass in it. "He wants us scared," I said slowly. "He wants us weak and confused, so when he comes back with some papers, we'll sign anything just to get out." "Yeah," Frank said. "He thinks we're old and stupid, but we've got something they don't." "Money and proof?" I asked. He shook his head. "Patience and the fact that we are way meaner than they remember." I looked back at the open box, the notebook, the papers. The flash drive. For a second I didn't want revenge, I wanted my little boy back. The one who used to run down these stairs in superhero pajamas and beg me to play, but that boy was gone. Ruby had helped turn him into this, sure, but he let it happen. He liked the power. He liked bossing us around, talking like we were already half dead. I felt something in me harden, slow and cold. "You know what, Frank?" I said. "If he wants to play dirty, we'll show him what dirty really looks like." Frank smiled, but it wasn't kind. "There she is," he said softly. "That's my girl." I closed the box carefully. I wasn't scared anymore, I was planning. And when Jason finally came back to unlock that door, he wasn't going to find two helpless old people. He was going to walk straight into the first step of a revenge he'd never see coming. Frank slid the flash drive into his pocket like it was a weapon. The box stayed open between us. "Do we even know if that thing still works?" I asked. "It's older than half the junk on these shelves." "Upstairs computer works," he said. "Jason used it just yesterday. He's not that bright. He thinks we don't even know how to turn it on." I snorted. "He forgets who taught him to use a mouse." I sat down on an old crate. The cold from the concrete came up through it. My body felt old, but my brain felt sharp, too sharp, like everything finally clicked into place. Little things at first, Ruby suggesting we downsize every other week. Jason taking my car keys by mistake and not bringing them back for 3 days. The time my pain pills felt off somehow. I got dizzy after one like I'd swallowed fog. I looked at Frank. "You remember that night I almost fell down these stairs?" I asked. He nodded slowly. "Yeah, you grabbed the rail just in time." I swear I saw Ruby watching me from the top step. She looked away fast, but I saw her. She didn't even ask if I was okay. He rubbed his jaw. "I saw her too. You didn't say anything." "I didn't want to spook you," he said, "but yeah, I've been watching her and him." Then there was the money. The little transfers Jason made when he was helping pay bills online, the way he rushed to close screens when we walked in, the new watch on his wrist 1 month when he swore they were struggling. I suddenly felt stupid for letting any of it slide. "He thinks we're blind," I said. "He thinks old means dumb." Frank sat on the crate across from me. "He's not just greedy," he said. "He's mean. That's the part that gets me." I knew what he meant. The way Jason sighed loudly when I asked him to repeat something. "Mom, I already explained it," he'd say. "You forget everything." The way Ruby talked about us in front of us. "They're like kids now," she told a friend on speaker once, not knowing I was in the hall. "We'll be handling everything soon. It's basically ours." I shoved my hands into my sweater sleeves. My fingers were shaking again, but it wasn't fear this time. It was anger, thick, hot anger that sat right under my ribs. "We could have cut him off years ago," I said. "We kept giving him chances." "That was the mistake," Frank answered. "We thought love would fix character." I laughed, short and bitter. "Guess we raised a vulture." He leaned forward. "So we stopped thinking like mom and dad, start thinking like people who were robbed." I looked at the door. "Step 1, we get out of here." He nodded. "Yeah, but we don't just walk out and yell. We let them come back, let them think they're in control. Meanwhile, we use what we've got." He tapped the notebook and the flash drive in his pocket. "And we act," he went on, "like we're scared and confused. Let them show their real faces. Let them talk too much." I pictured Ruby's smirk, the way her eyes glowed when she thought she'd won something. I pictured Jason waving papers at us, telling us it's just a formality, Mom, like we were stupid. I straightened my back. "Fine, I can play dumb. I forget things at the right time. I cry on cue. I shake a little." "I can do that," Frank smiled. "That's my girl." We spent the next hour going through the box. I memorized the key points of the real papers, which accounts were fully in my name, which assets had quiet transfer clauses, which witnesses we could call if we needed them. At one point, I found old photos stuffed in the bottom, baby Jason on Frank's chest, me holding him in the yard, his little hands in my hair. I stared at them for a moment. My chest hurt. I loved that kid so much, I whispered. I still do, and that's the damn problem. Frank looked at the picture, then up at me. We loved him, he said. He doesn't love us, he loves what we have. There's a difference. I slid the pictures back into the box and closed my hand into a fist. Okay, I said, no more soft heart. He locked us in a basement like trash. He chose his side. Somewhere above us, a car door slammed. Then another, footsteps on the front porch, the sound of keys jingling. Frank stood up slowly, his knee cracking again. He moved the workbench back in front of the wall, neat and normal, hiding the hole in the box like they'd never been touched. He turned to me. Ready for the show? He asked. I wiped at my eyes, messed up my hair a little, and made my hands shake on purpose. How's this? I asked, voice small and scared. He gave a grim smile. Perfect. The deadbolt clicked. The knob turned. Jason was about to open that door, thinking he was in charge. And he had no idea he was walking into the first act of the hell we were about to build just for him and his pretty little wife. The knob turned and the door opened just a crack. Light spilled down the stairs like a spotlight. Jason's face appeared first. Mom, Dad, he called down, voice fake soft. You guys okay? I shrank back a little, making my shoulders shake. Jason, why did you lock us in here? I asked, letting my voice wobble. We were scared. He frowned like we were the problem. I didn't lock you in, he said. The door just sticks sometimes, you know that. I stared right at the metal deadbolt he had clicked himself. I heard you, I said quietly. I heard it lock. He rolled his eyes just a tiny bit. Mom, you've been getting confused lately. You think you heard things. Behind him, Ruby appeared, all big eyes and fake concern. We're so sorry you felt that way, she said, sliding into that therapist voice she used when she wanted something. We were just trying to keep you safe. You keep wandering around and leaving the stove on. I blinked. I have never left the stove on, I said. Ruby tilted her head. Remember last week? She asked. We told you. You forgot you were boiling water and burned the pot. That was you, I said slowly. You burned the pot. Jason let out a long sigh. See? He said to Ruby like I wasn't standing there. This is what I'm talking about. She mixes things up. This is why we have to step in. My stomach twisted. This was worse than I thought. It wasn't just greed. They were already rewriting the story in their heads, turning us into helpless idiots. Frank stepped forward, leaning on the railing like his knee hurt more than it did. We're fine, he said calmly. Just let us out. Jason opened the door fully and walked down the steps, slow, like he was visiting a patient. Ruby followed, holding a bright red folder to her chest. What's that? I asked, staring at the folder. Oh, this, Ruby smiled. Just some paperwork to make things easier. We were going to talk about it later, but since we're all down here, she walked over to the old workbench and laid the folder on top, right where the secret wall had been hidden minutes ago. I almost laughed at the irony. Jason pulled out 2 chairs from the corner and set them up like a little office. Sit, he said like he was talking to kids. I sat, keeping my eyes wide and hands shaky. Frank stayed standing, leaning against the table. Ruby opened the folder and laid out a thick stack of papers. So, she began, we've been talking to a professional about your situation. You know your age, your health, your memory. My jaw clenched. My memory is fine, I said. Jason gave me that slow, heavy look. Mom, you called me 4 times last week to ask what day it was. I called you twice, I said, to ask if you were coming over for dinner. That's not how I remember it, he said. And that's kind of the point. Gaslighting, full bold in my face gaslighting, the kind that makes you feel crazy in your own skin if you let it. Ruby slid the top paper toward me and tapped the bottom. This is just giving Jason a little more control, she said sweetly. Power of attorney so he can sign things for you and handle bills. It will make your lives easier. You won't have to worry about anything. Frank rubbed his knee and groaned a little. Lot of words, he said, hard to read all that standing up. I can explain it, Jason said quickly. It just says that when you're not able to make decisions, I can do it. It's normal. If it's normal, I asked softly, why did you lock us in the basement first? He flinched, just a little. We didn't lock you, he said again, voice harder. You keep saying that. I forced myself to look confused. Maybe I did mix it up, I mumbled, eyes dropping to the page. I let my hand tremble so the paper shook. Inside, I wasn't confused at all. I was counting: 1, lock us away; 2, scare us; 3, show up with helpful papers. They wanted us desperate and grateful, ready to sign our whole lives over just to feel safe. Can you walk me through this? I asked, blinking up at him. Slow, I'm just tired, the basement is cold. Ruby smiled like I'd finally behaved. Of course, she said. This one says Jason can talk to the bank for you. This one is about the house. This one is about the house, I cut in. What about the house? Jason's eyes flashed. Mom, nobody's taking your house, he said. We just need to make sure it transfers cleanly when the time comes. We're trying to protect you. That's what you told Grandma before you moved her into that dumpy home and sold her place in 2 weeks, I said. Ruby's smile froze. That's not fair, she said. We did what we had to do. Frank shuffled a little like he was just an old man shifting his weight. I knew he had his phone in his pocket. I knew exactly where the little voice memo app was on that screen. We'd practiced. Tell you what, Frank said, why don't you leave those here? We'll look them over tonight, maybe have the lawyer read them. Jason stiffened. There's no need for that, he said quickly. Lawyers are expensive, we already talked to one. He said this is the best way. For who? I asked quietly. Best for who, Jason? He opened his mouth, then shut it again. His face went hard. You know what? Forget it, we're trying to help you. If you want to make this difficult, Ruby touched his arm. Baby, stop, she said softly. They're scared, they'll come around, just leave the papers, okay? He pulled back annoyed, but he did it. He slapped the folder down on the bench. Fine, he muttered, but don't wait too long, Mom, we can't keep things the way they are. He said it like a threat, not a warning. They went back up the stairs, the door shut. This time I listened close. The lock didn't click. See, I said softly when their footsteps faded. He can't even pretend well, he's rushing. Frank nodded. His hand slipped into his pocket and pulled out his phone. He turned the screen toward me. The little red recording icon glowed. Every word, we had every word. And my sweet, greedy son had just given us exactly the kind of ammo we needed to ruin him slowly from the inside out. When the house went quiet again, I watched the stairs for a full minute. No lock this time, I whispered. Frank walked up slow and pushed the door with 2 fingers. It opened easy, no click, no resistance, so it had been locked before, just like I knew. He really thinks we're that far gone, I said. Can't even keep his lies straight? Frank smirked. Good, dumb enemies are easier. We went upstairs. The kitchen looked the same, but it didn't feel the same. Their coffee mugs still on the counter, her purse gone, his jacket missing from the hook. They had left to give us time to calm down, I guessed. I was long past calm. Frank went straight to the old desktop computer in the den. He sat down with a little groan, more for the act than the pain. I stood behind him, heart pounding. You sure you know what you're doing, old man? I asked. He shot me a look. I was fixing computers when Jason was drooling on bibs. He plugged in the flash drive, clicked around, and opened a folder. Videos, audio files, scans of bank statements, copies of forms Jason had pushed in front of us over the last year. He clicked one of the videos. There was Jason on the screen, standing in the same kitchen, voice raised, face twisted. You're selfish, he shouted at me on the recording. You don't need all this money, you're just sitting on it while we struggle. On the screen, my past self flinched. I had already forgotten how hard he'd stabbed his finger toward my face that day. Turn it off, I said. Frank paused it instead. This one's good, he said. Shows his temper, shows his attitude. He played another, Ruby's voice laughing. It'll all be ours soon, babe, they're already slipping. Just push a little more. I tasted metal in my mouth. She really said that in our house, I whispered. He nodded. I wired up tiny mics in the smoke detectors after the first time he borrowed from the savings. You thought I was just being paranoid? I thought you were bored, I said. Didn't know you were building our little revenge kit. We copied everything, flash drive to computer, computer back to another fresh drive from the drawer. Triple backups, no one was erasing this without burning the whole house down. Okay, I said, we've got proof he stole, proof he's trying to take control, proof of how he talks about us, now what? Frank leaned back thinking. We don't go straight to the cops, he said, that would be too clean, too fast. You said you wanted to be meaner, I reminded him. He nodded slowly. Yeah, I do. He picked up his phone and scrolled. I'm calling Mark. Your fishing buddy? I asked. What's he gonna do, bring a trout? He's not just a fishing buddy, Frank said. He's a retired bank manager who hates people who steal from family. He hit call and put it on speaker. After a few rings, a deep voice answered. Frank, you dead or just lazy? Still alive, thanks, Frank said. Got a situation and I think you're gonna enjoy this one. He gave Mark the short version, locked in basement, fake papers. Money moved, recordings. I watched his face while he talked. The more he shared, the colder his eyes got. On the other end, Mark whistled. That's some grade A trash behavior, he said. Your kid did all that? Yeah, Frank said. I'm done pretending he's just going through something. You want legal advice, Mark said, or other kinds of advice? I cut in. We want him to pay, I said. Really pay, not just a slap on the wrist. I want him broke, embarrassed, and scared to even say our names. Well, Mark said, lucky for you, I know how banks and employers feel about thieves. Papers shuffled. First step, you move everything out of reach. Quiet. No warning. Already started on that years ago, Frank said, but we'll lock it down harder. Second, Mark went on, you build a neat little package. Copies of statements, that recording where he yells, anything with signatures. You make it pretty, and then, I asked. And then, Mark said, you let him hang himself a little more, make him put things in text, make him brag, when he gets comfortable, when he thinks he owns you. That's when you send the package to the right people. Bank fraud department, maybe his boss, maybe the cops. If you feel generous, you don't warn him, you just pull the floor out. I smiled slow. I like Mark, I told Frank. Always have, Frank said. We hung up with a plan forming like a storm cloud. We spent the next hour moving what we could online, changing passwords, closing one small account he thought was for emergencies. shifting money into a different bank Jason didn't know about. We printed copies of everything and slid them into a plain brown envelope. On the outside, I wrote in big, clear letters, "For police or bank if something happens to us." "That's dramatic," Frank said. "It's bait," I answered. "If he ever finds it, he'll know we were never as stupid as he thought." When we were done, I looked around our quiet house. It felt different now, not like a home, like a stage we were setting. "We're gonna let him come back," I said. "We're gonna let him think we're scared, let him talk more, let him lock himself into his own lies." "And then?" Frank asked. "And then," I said softly, "we start tearing his world apart one piece at a time while he still thinks the show is going his way." I could already see it. His job calling about irregular activity, the bank freezing his accounts, Ruby realizing she married a broke, exposed little thief instead of a future rich boy. They wanted to treat us like we were already dead. Fine. We'd show them exactly how much damage two useless old people could do before we were done breathing. We didn't blow everything up the next day. That would have been too kind. We let it sit. Jason came by in the afternoon to check on us. He walked in without knocking like he owned the place. Ruby followed, already on her phone. "Hey," he said, dropping his keys on the counter. "How are my favorite old people?" I made my shoulders droop and scratched at my sweater. "Still a little shaky," I said. "Being stuck in the basement like that, it wasn't nice, Jason." He frowned like I was being dramatic. "Mom, we already talked about this," he said. "The door sticks, you're making it sound worse than it was." Ruby didn't even look up. "You guys should really be grateful we're helping," she said. "Most parents don't have kids this involved." I smiled, small and weak. "We are grateful," I lied. "We know you're trying." Frank sat at the table, a glass of water in his hand. His phone lay next to it, face down, recording every word. Jason glanced at the red folder where he'd left it on the counter yesterday. "You look at those papers?" he asked. "We started," I said. "It's a lot to read." "My eyes get tired." "I can go over them again," he said, that pushy tone slipped in. "There's no reason to drag this out, Mom. We just want things in place before, you know." "Before we die?" I asked, tilting my head. He flinched. "Before something happens," he corrected. "You're not getting younger." "No," I said softly, "we're not." Ruby finally put her phone down. "Honestly," she said, "the sooner you sign, the sooner we can calm the banks and the lawyer and everybody else. Right now it's messy, this will fix it." I watched her carefully. She looked hungry, not for food, for control. "We'll finish reading them tonight," I said. "My head just isn't right yet." Jason started to argue, then stopped himself. He forced a smile. "Fine, don't take too long," he said. "We can't keep waiting." After they left, the house felt cleaner, like they'd dragged their stink out with them. Frank tapped his phone and stopped the recording. "Got more," he said. "Enough to show any sane person what they're really after." "Good," I said, "because I'm done being nice in my head now." We heard him. We didn't wait weeks. We moved that night. Frank called Mark back. "Ready?" he asked. "Born ready," Mark said. "You got those transfer copies?" "Yep, send 'em over," he said. "I'll walk them straight to the fraud department myself." "Oh, and Linda?" "Yeah," I asked. "Make sure Jason's current address and job are on that little package," Mark said. "Helps them know exactly where to aim when they start asking why money walked out of your accounts and into his." I grinned. "Already printed?" We faxed and emailed everything Mark's way. No drama, no warning. Just cold, quiet moves. Next, I called our lawyer, the real one, not the friend Ruby always mentioned. "Linda," he said, "everything okay?" "Not even close," I said. "I need an urgent appointment. And I need you to pretend we're still confused old idiots when my son calls later." "Can you do that?" He chuckled. "I've been pretending to be polite to greedy kids for 30 years, he said. "I think I can handle one more." We set a time for the next day. I hung up and stared at the old family photos on the wall. In one of them, Jason was 12, grinning with cake on his face. I moved that frame off the wall and into a drawer. He didn't belong up there anymore. Later that evening, I walked next door to see our neighbor, Carla. She'd known Jason since he was little. She also had the biggest mouth on the block. "Hey, honey," she said, pulling me into a hug. "You look tired. Everything okay?" I let my eyes fill just enough. "Jason's just been different," I said. He raised his voice at us, took some money without asking. "Locked us in the basement by accident." "Locked you where?" she asked, eyes going wide. I nodded, small and broken. "I don't want people to think he's a bad boy," I said, shaking my head. "Maybe I'm just old. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong." Carla's face hardened. "Oh, I'm sure you remember just fine," she said. "You don't worry, I'll keep an eye out. I always see who comes and goes." Exactly what I wanted. Let the neighbors watch. Let them whisper, let the story leak out in little drips before we even swing the hammer. When I came back, Frank had the brown envelope on the table, the one that said "For police or bank if something happens to us." "Thinking of moving this," he said. "Somewhere he'll find it if he snoops." I thought for a second. "Bedside drawer," I said. "He's nosy, he'll look." "That's cruel," Frank said, almost admiring. "Good," I answered. We slid it into my nightstand just under my Bible. The symbolism made me smile. Before bed, I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea and my phone. I opened our text thread with Jason and scrolled, remembering all the love you mom messages from back when he still meant it. Then I typed something new. Me, hey baby, thank you for helping with the papers. I know we're a lot to deal with. We just want to make sure we don't cause trouble for you. I watched the screen. He replied in under a minute. Jason. It's okay, mom. Honestly, you guys do make things harder, but we're trying. Just sign the stuff and it'll all be smoother. Promise. There it was. The little bit of cruelty he couldn't hide. I took a screenshot. Saved it in a special folder with everything else. Another drop in the bucket. He thought we were moving closer to handing him our whole life. He didn't know we had already started pulling his own life apart quietly, piece by piece. And it wouldn't be long before the first real hit landed, right where it would hurt him the most. The first crack showed up 3 days later on a Wednesday morning. I was at the table with my coffee when Frank's phone buzzed. He checked the screen and smiled. Mark, he said. He put it on speaker. Got news for you, Mark said. Bank didn't like what they saw. Those transfers from your account to Jason's, they flagged him, opened an investigation. Fraud department's officially sniffing around. A slow warmth spread through my chest. So what does that mean? I asked. It means, Mark said, they're looking at every move he made with your money. And until they're done, certain accounts of his might not behave correctly. I grinned. You mean his little toy card might stop working? Exactly, Mark chuckled. You let me know when he starts screaming. We didn't have to wait long. That afternoon, the front door flew open so hard it hit the wall. Jason stormed in, face red, hair messed up like he'd been dragging his hands through it. What did you do? He shouted. I blinked, all soft and innocent. Hell of a greeting, I said. Nice to see you too, honey. He slammed his hand down on the counter. My card got declined, he said. At lunch, in front of everyone. Do you know how embarrassing that is? Oh no, I said, putting my hand to my chest. Did you try it again? Of course I tried it again, he snapped. Then I called the bank. They said there's some kind of review on my account because of transfers from your accounts. They asked a lot of questions. He glared at us like we had kicked his puppy. Frank leaned on the back of a chair. Well, that sounds serious, he said calmly. Did you tell them the truth, that you moved money without our permission? Jason's mouth snapped shut. I helped you, he said finally. I paid your bills. You told me to. No, I said gently. We asked you to show us how to pay them online. You decided to do extra. Ruby rushed in right behind him, cheeks flushed. You guys messed something up, she said. We told you not to call the bank on your own. Now they're confused. We didn't call the bank, I said, but maybe someone at the bank noticed what you were doing and got confused all by themselves. Jason's eyes narrowed. You're trying to turn this around on me, he said. I was taking care of you. By locking us in the basement, I asked. By bringing papers to sign right after, that kind of care? He took a step toward me, then stopped, remembering himself. You don't understand how any of this works, he said. You never did. You're going to screw up everything if you keep fighting me. I shrugged. Looks like things are already getting screwed up and we didn't touch a thing. Frank's phone buzzed again on the counter. He glanced at it, then at Jason. It might be the bank calling back, Frank said. Want me to put them on speaker so we can all hear what they say? Jason's eyes flicked to the phone, then away. No, he snapped. I'll handle it, sure, I said lightly. You've been handling things great so far. His jaw clenched. You know what, fine, he said. Don't sign the papers, don't listen to me. But when this all blows up, remember who tried to help you. He turned and stomped toward the door. Jason, I called. He stopped but didn't turn around. Sometimes, I said quietly, when people take things that aren't theirs, banks and cops and judges don't call that help. They call it stealing. He stood there for a long second, shoulders tight, then slammed out of the house. Ruby stayed behind, staring at me with hate in her eyes. You're going to ruin his life, she said. I met her stare. No, I said. He's doing that just fine without me. She made a disgusted sound and followed him out. When the door shut, I let out a long breath. Frank walked over and kissed the top of my head. That was mean, he said. Thank you, I answered. The next day we went to see our lawyer. His office smelled like old paper and lemon polish. He sat across from us, glasses low on his nose, reading the copies we'd brought, bank statements, Jason's text, a summary of what happened in the basement. This is bad, he said finally. For him, I said. He nodded once. For him, he agreed. You have enough here to defend yourselves against any claim that you're not capable. You also have enough for the bank and maybe the police to take a very close look at your son's behavior. Good, I said. Now I need something from you. What's that? He asked. I want a new will, I said. A real one, ironclad. I want it so that if Jason even thinks about contesting it, all he gets is maybe a fruit basket. The lawyer smiled for the first time. We can do that, he said. You want to cut him out completely? I stared at the pen in my hand for a second. Once I would have said no. Once I would have thought he's still my baby. That baby was gone. I want enough in it so no one can say we forgot him, I said. But I don't want him touching the house, the main money, or anything he can sell. If he gets anything, it has to be small and controlled. We could put most of it in a trust, the lawyer said. You pick someone else to oversee it. Jason gets nothing directly, maybe a tiny fixed amount each month if you're feeling generous. And if I'm not? I asked. Then we leave him with a very symbolic amount, he said. Like $1, along with a letter that explains why. Oh, I said, feeling a dark little joy. I am definitely writing that letter, Frank chuckled. Make it spicy, he said. We spent the next hour going through details, signing. Initialing, moving the house into the trust, naming a different person, Mark, in the end, as the one who would handle things if we died. No legal power to Jason, I said. None, not one line. Done, the lawyer said. His pen scratched across the paper like a knife. When we left the office, I felt lighter and heavier at the same time. He wanted everything, I said as we walked to the car. The house, the money, the choice. Now he'll be lucky if he gets a pity check for cheap rent somewhere. And he won't know, Frank said, until it's too late to fix it. That was the cruel part. We weren't just taking his future payday. We were letting him keep dreaming about it, right up until the moment the truth hit him in the face, in front of whoever was watching. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with a blank page and started writing the letter that would go with the will. I didn't use fancy words, I used the same simple ones I'd always used on him. Jason, I wrote, this is what you earned all by yourself, and I wasn't just talking about money. When that letter was finally read to him one day, it would hit harder than any slap, and we were still not done breaking him yet. The second hit came from a place Jason really cared about, his image. He loved his job. Not because he cared about the work, but because he liked saying, I'm in finance, and watching people nod like he was important. He liked the suit, the shiny shoes, the way servers at nice restaurants looked at him when he slapped his card down. 2 days after his card got declined, my phone rang early. Unknown number, hello, I answered. Mrs. Carter, a calm voice asked. This is Angela from First Ridge Bank's fraud department. Do you have a minute? Oh, I had a whole day. Yes, I said. Is something wrong? We're reviewing a case involving some transfers from your accounts to an account held by your son, Jason Carter, she said. We just need to confirm a few details. Did you authorize him to move those funds? I let a little sadness drip into my voice. He told us he was helping with online bills, I said. He didn't explain he was moving extra money into his own account. So you did not give him clear permission to move those larger amounts? She asked. No, I said, we trusted him, he took advantage. Angela was quiet for a second. I'm very sorry to hear that, she said. We take this seriously, we may contact you again. In the meantime, I recommend you do not sign any new documents giving him full control over your finances. Oh, we won't, I said, smiling. Thank you for saying it. It helps to hear someone else call it what it is. She paused, then added, for your information, when our investigation touches an employee of a financial company, their employer is usually notified as well. There it was. Thank you, I said softly. Really? I hung up and looked at Frank. They're telling his work, I said. He grinned. Beautiful. That afternoon, Jason showed up again, but this time he looked different. No nice suit. Just a wrinkled shirt and yesterday's hair. He didn't even knock, just burst in. What did you tell the bank? He demanded. Hello, son, I said. We're fine, thanks for asking. His eyes were wild. You answered their questions, didn't you? He said. You made it sound like I stole from you. You did steal from us, I said. What else was I supposed to say? Oh no, officer, please don't bother our dear boy. He only robbed his old parents a little. He ran his hands through his hair. You don't get it, he said. They called my job. My boss pulled me into his office. They showed him stuff. They said they're reviewing my accounts, my access. I might get suspended. He looked at me like I was supposed to feel bad. Instead, I felt calm. Maybe you shouldn't have used your parents like a personal ATM, I said. Might have kept your job cleaner. That's my career, he snapped. Do you know how hard I worked for that position? Oh, you mean that position you leveraged to help us and quietly skim off the top? I asked. Yeah, that one. Ruby appeared in the doorway, eyes red like she'd been crying or practicing crying. With her, it was hard to tell. They're destroying us, she said. Our landlord called, the rent check bounced. They're talking about late fees. I tilted my head. You two must have been counting on money that wasn't really yours, I said. That's risky, huh? Jason slammed his fist on the table. You ruined me, he said. You could have just signed the papers. We could have had this all handled quietly. You tried to lock us in a basement and scare us into handing you our lives, I replied. That wasn't quiet. That was nasty. You drew first blood, Jason. He laughed harsh and ugly. You think this is over? He asked. You think the bank and some lawyer tricks are gonna stop me? You're old, you're slow. We'll find another way. Frank stood up taller than he'd looked in years. His voice dropped low. You're not listening, he said. We're not the ones on the edge now. You are. Your accounts are frozen. Your job is watching you. Your neighbors are starting to talk. Jason blinked. Neighbors, I smiled. Carla saw you screaming on the porch yesterday, I said. Then she came over, she asked questions, you know how she is. She's probably halfway down the street with that story by now. Ruby's face went pale. You told the neighbors, she whispered. I didn't have to, I said. You did that when you yelled and slammed things like a toddler. People notice when a perfect son loses his mind on his old parents. Jason looked like he wanted to throw something. You're trying to make me look like some kind of monster, he said. You're doing that yourself, I said. We're just letting the right people see it. He pointed at me, hand shaking. If I go down, he said, voice low and ugly, I'm not going alone. I held his stare. You already went down, I said. You just haven't hit the ground yet. He jerked back, breathing hard, then stormed out, slamming the door so hard a picture frame rattled. Ruby stayed frozen a second longer, then whispered, You're going to regret this, and followed him. Frank let out a breath. Think he's getting the message? He asked. Not yet, I said. He still thinks he can claw his way out. I walked over to the window. Across the street, Carla pretended to water her plants while watching our house. Good, let him walk around town thinking he's still the successful finance guy while the whispers grow behind his back. Let his card fail in public. Let his boss side-eye him in meetings. Let Ruby realize she bet her life on a man who just lost the one thing he was proud of. We'd already hit his money and his job. Next, we were going to go for something far more painful. His pride as a good son and his last hope of ever touching what we built. We didn't invite Jason and Ruby over to talk. We summoned them. I texted him in the morning. Me, your dad, and I decided we'll sign whatever we need to. Meet us at Mr. Harlan's office at 3. It's time to make things official, he replied in seconds. Jason, finally, will be there. Frank and I got there early. The lawyer's office was quiet, air smelling like paper and old coffee. Harlan had the new will and trust folder open on his desk, pages marked with little yellow tabs. You sure about this? He asked. I looked him straight in the eye. Very sure. Jason and Ruby walked in right on time. Jason had a tie on, but it was crooked. There were dark circles under his eyes. Ruby's makeup was heavier than usual, like she was trying to paint her stress away. Good, Jason said, sitting without being asked. We can finally stop this drama. Ruby gave us a sad little smile. We just want what's best for you, she said. I said, let's see. Harlan cleared his throat. Thank you all for coming, he said. Your parents asked me to walk everyone through their updated estate plan. Estate plan? Jason repeated. You mean the power of attorney stuff? No, Harlan said calmly. I mean their will, their trust. The final way their assets are handled? Jason frowned. We already have that, he said. We spoke to someone, you spoke to someone else, Harlan said. This is the version that will actually stand up in court. I watched the way Jason's jaw tightened. He knew exactly what that meant. Let's start simple, Harlan went on. Your parents have moved the house and most major assets into a trust. The trustee will manage everything according to their wishes. Jason straightened. So I'll be trustee? He asked quickly. No, Harlan said, you will not. He slid a page across the desk and tapped a name. Mark Dwyer has been named trustee, he said. He has full authority over the trust when your parents pass and clear instructions on how funds are to be handled. Jason's face went red. Mark, the fishing guy? He almost shouted. You pick some random neighbor over your own son? He's not random, Frank said. He's honest, that's new in our world. Ruby leaned forward. Okay, but Jason is still the main beneficiary, right? She asked, voice tight. I mean, obviously, he's the only child. Harlan folded his hands. Your parents have decided, he said, to divide their estate very specifically. A large portion goes to charity. Another portion supports some longtime friends and people who helped them. A small, symbolic portion is set aside for you. Jason blinked. Symbolic, he repeated. What does that even mean? Harlan looked at me. Do you want to tell him, he asked, or shall I read the letter? Oh, read it, I said. He won't listen to me anyway. He picked up the letter I'd written. His voice was calm as he read. Jason, we are leaving you exactly what you earned by your actions. You tried to scare us, steal from us, and lock us away while you reached for our things. We will not reward that. This small amount is to show we did not forget you. We simply chose not to trust you. Harlan glanced at the next lines but didn't read them all. That part was just for the file. The good parts were already out. Jason stared at him, then at me. You're joking, he said. Tell me you're joking. I don't joke about the roof over my head, I said. What small amount? Ruby demanded. How much are we talking? Harlan slid another page over. $1,000, he said, flat. No share of the house, no access to the trust, no control, that is all. Jason choked. After everything I did for you, you stole from us, I cut in. You called us stupid, you locked us in a basement. You tried to take every choice away from us. This is what that costs. Ruby's face twisted. You can't do this, she said. We've been planning our future based on money that wasn't yours, I said. Maybe plan again. Jason slammed his hands on the desk. I'll fight this, he snapped. I'll challenge it, I'll tell the court you're not in your right minds. You'll run into a pile of proof, Harlan said calmly. Bank statements, recordings, texts, enough to show exactly who's been confused here and it's not your parents. Jason looked at him, then at us. You set me up, he whispered. I leaned back in my chair. No, I said. You set yourself up, we just stopped covering for you. Right then, as if the universe had good timing for once, his phone buzzed on the table. He glanced down, his face went even paler. It's my job, he muttered. Answer it, I said sweetly. Put it on speaker, we're all family here. He shot me a hateful look but picked up anyway. Hello, he said, a firm voice came through. Even without hearing every word, I caught the tone, formal, cold. We need to discuss the fraud review, suspended pending further investigation. Bring your records, HR will be present. His shoulders sagged inch by inch. I'll call you back, he said, hanging up fast. He stared at the phone like it had betrayed him. You happy now? He whispered. You're breaking my whole life. No, I said softly. You broke it when you chose money over us. We just stopped being your soft landing. Ruby grabbed his arm. We're leaving, she snapped. You don't have to sit here and be humiliated by them. As they stood, I spoke one last time. Jason, I said. He paused at the door, not turning all the way. You will not come to this house again, I said. You will not call us for money, help, or pity. We changed the locks, we told the neighbors. We left written records with the bank and the police in case anything happens to us. You wanted our stuff instead of our love, so now you have neither. He finally turned his head. For a second, I saw that little boy in his eyes again. Mom, he said quietly, you're really cutting me off. Yes, I said, I'm finally matching what you did to us a long time ago. He opened his mouth, closed it, then walked out. Ruby followed, slamming the door behind them. Silence dropped, heavy but clean. Harlan cleared his throat. That, he said, may have been the most honest meeting I've ever had. Frank laughed under his breath. We aimed to please. Later, at home, we did the last small, cruel thing. We boxed up Jason's childhood photos and trophies, not to throw away, just to move them out of sight. I labeled the box with his name and pushed it deep into the back of the basement, right behind the wall that had once held our secret. He had locked us down there thinking we were powerless. We left his whole future locked in paperwork, signatures, and files he couldn't reach, no matter how hard he rattled the door. That night, I slept better than I had in years. My son might spend the rest of his life blaming us, telling anyone who would listen that we ruined him. But I knew the truth. He locked us in a basement once. We just made sure he would live the rest of his life inside the walls he built for himself.